In just one moment, decades of trust can vanish into thin air. For Amanda Brandon, that moment arrived on a quiet evening, in her trusted friend Lauren Porter's home. There, she uncovered the truth about her husband's hidden life, a truth so shattering it would alter the course of her existence forever. Welcome to Vic's True Crime Stories, where we delve deep into the complexities of the human heart to uncover the motivations behind some of the most shocking crimes. This is not merely a tale of betrayal. It's a story of how deception can unravel even the strongest foundations, pushing people to their breaking point and beyond. Today, we explore the journey of Amanda Brandon, a devoted wife whose world was torn apart by lies. What begins as a seemingly perfect marriage ends in tragedy, leaving behind questions that linger long after the final chapter. How does someone go from loving partner to convicted murderer? What drives a person to cross lines they never imagined possible? But before we dive into the chilling events that unfolded, consider this. How far would you go if confronted with the ultimate betrayal? Would you seek understanding, or would rage consume you? These are the questions at the heart of Amanda's story, and yours to ponder as we reveal the truth. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on gripping stories like this one. Together, let's uncover the layers of deceit and consequence that define the price of betrayal. For 35 years, Amanda and Jason Brandon built a life that seemed almost too good to be true. They were the couple everyone admired, the ones who always had a warm smile, an open door, and a story to share. Their home was the heart of their small suburban neighborhood, a place where laughter echoed through the halls and memories were crafted with every passing year. Jason, a respected engineer known for his sharp mind and quick wit, often joked about how lucky he was to have found Amanda. She, in turn, radiated kindness and grace, managing their household with quiet efficiency while supporting her husband's career ambitions. Together, they raised 2 children who had since grown and moved away, leaving behind only fond recollections of family dinners and weekend adventures. On Friday nights, it wasn't uncommon to find Amanda preparing one of Jason's favorite meals, a savory roast or perhaps her famous lasagna. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden hues across their dining room table, Jason would recount tales from work, his voice animated as he spoke of projects completed and challenges overcome. And Amanda? She listened intently, offering words of encouragement and pride. "You know," Jason once said, leaning back in his chair after a particularly satisfying meal, "sometimes I think we have it all figured out. A great house, wonderful kids. What more could anyone ask for?" Amanda smiled softly, her eyes meeting his with a depth of affection that spoke volumes. "Just us together," she replied. "That's all I need." Their connection wasn't limited to their immediate family. Neighbors adored them, drawn by their genuine warmth and willingness to lend a helping hand. Among these friendships, none shone brighter than the bond they shared with Lauren Porter, their next-door neighbor. Lauren, a charismatic woman with a knack for making people feel at ease, quickly became a staple in their lives. Whether it was organizing community events, hosting potluck dinners, or simply stopping by for coffee on lazy Sunday mornings, Lauren was always present, weaving herself seamlessly into the fabric of their world. It was during one such gathering, a summer barbecue filled with laughter and chatter, that Jason first noticed Lauren in a way that went beyond friendship. Though neither of them realized it then, this moment marked the beginning of something far more complicated. Years earlier, at a local charity gala, they had crossed paths briefly, exchanging pleasantries over shared interests. At the time, it meant little more than polite conversation. But as time passed, those initial impressions deepened, forming the foundation of a relationship that would eventually threaten everything Amanda held dear. For now, however, there were no signs of trouble. The Brandons' life remained picture-perfect, untouched by the shadows lurking just beneath the surface. Family photos adorned their walls, each image capturing moments of joy and unity. Amanda took pride in maintaining their home, ensuring every detail reflected the love and care they poured into their marriage. To outsiders, Their partnership appeared unshakable, a testament to the power of commitment and trust. But little did Amanda know, cracks were quietly forming. Subtle shifts in behavior, fleeting glances exchanged between Jason and Lauren, and whispered conversations that faded whenever she entered the room. These fragments, though seemingly insignificant, hinted at a truth hidden beneath layers of carefully constructed normalcy. For 35 years, Amanda believed she had everything under control. Yet, as the years rolled on, the illusion of perfection began to falter, setting the stage for a revelation that would change everything. The signs were there, but Amanda chose to ignore them at first. Life with Jason had always been predictable, comfortable even, and she convinced herself that the small changes in his behavior were nothing out of the ordinary. But as time went on, the anomalies became harder to overlook. Jason began coming home later than usual, offering vague explanations about meetings running over or last-minute work calls. At first, Amanda accepted these excuses without question. After all, hadn't he always put his career first? Yet, the frequency of these late nights started to gnaw at her subconscious. There was also the way he kept his phone close, checking it constantly during meals or family gatherings. Whenever she asked what had his attention so captivated, he would smile dismissively and say, "Just work emails." Then there were the visits to Lauren's house. At first, they seemed innocent enough, dropping off borrowed items, discussing community events, or collaborating on projects for the neighborhood association. But soon, the trips grew more frequent, sometimes occurring on weekends when Jason claimed he had no pressing engagements. Amanda tried to rationalize it, telling herself that Lauren and Jason shared common interests and perhaps just enjoyed each other's company. Still, a seed of doubt had been planted, one that refused to remain buried. One afternoon, while tidying up the living room, Amanda stumbled upon a book Jason had left on the coffee table. It was an old engineering textbook, its pages dog-eared from years of use. As she flipped through it absent-mindedly, something slipped out, a folded piece of paper. Curious, she unfolded it and froze. Scrawled across the note in Jason's handwriting was a single name, Lauren. Below it, a cryptic phrase read, "Next time, let's make it count." Her heart pounded as she stared at the words, her mind racing to find plausible explanations. Perhaps it was related to some project or meeting with Lauren. Maybe it meant nothing at all. But deep down, Amanda knew better. This wasn't the first time she'd noticed subtle hints pointing toward something deeper, and now the evidence was staring her right in the face. Determined to gather more clarity, Amanda decided to reach out to their neighbors. During a casual chat with Mrs. Henderson, an elderly woman who lived 2 doors down, the conversation turned to Jason and Lauren. "Have you noticed how often Jason goes over to Lauren's place?" Mrs. Henderson asked casually, knitting needles clicking softly in her lap. Amanda hesitated, caught off guard by the directness of the question. "No," she replied slowly, though her voice betrayed her uncertainty. "I guess I hadn't thought about it much. Maybe they're just catching up on work stuff." Mrs. Henderson nodded knowingly, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Could be," she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "Still, it seems strange, doesn't it? Especially since Lauren isn't exactly known for being discreet." The comment lingered in Amanda's mind long after the conversation ended. Discreet. That word stuck with her, echoing doubts she had tried so hard to suppress. If Lauren wasn't discreet, then what did that mean for Jason? And why hadn't Amanda seen this sooner? Over the following days, Amanda found herself paying closer attention to the details she had previously overlooked. She noticed the faint scent of perfume lingering on Jason's clothes, different from the cologne he usually wore. She observed the way he avoided eye contact whenever she brought up Lauren's name. Each new observation chipped away at the foundation of trust she had built over 3 decades of marriage. Her suspicions deepened further when she overheard a snippet of conversation between Jason and Lauren while walking past Lauren's open window. The laughter, the familiarity in their voices, it was unmistakable. They sounded like old friends, yes, but there was something else underlying their exchange, something intimate that made Amanda's stomach churn. Despite the mounting evidence, Amanda struggled to confront the reality head-on. Denial was easier. Denial allowed her to preserve the illusion of normalcy. But the cracks in her world were growing wider, and she couldn't keep ignoring them forever. This story gets even darker as Amanda uncovers the truth. Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends who love true crime stories like this one. As the pieces began falling into place, Amanda realized she needed answers, and she was willing to do whatever it took to uncover the truth. What she discovered next would change her life forever. Amanda's resolve hardened as the weight of her suspicions pressed down on her. She could no longer ignore the signs or bury her head in denial. The cryptic note, the late-night visits, the lingering perfume, each clue pointed to a truth she was determined to uncover. With trembling hands and a heart heavy with dread, Amanda began her investigation. She started by searching through Jason's belongings, methodically going through his desk drawers, briefcase, and even the pockets of his jackets. It was there, tucked away in an old folder, that she found the first piece of undeniable evidence: love letters. Written in passionate prose, they detailed intimate moments shared between Jason and Lauren, words that once might have been meant for her. Each letter was dated, spanning years, revealing a relationship far deeper and more enduring than Amanda had ever imagined. But it didn't stop there. Hidden within a stack of receipts, she discovered hotel bills under aliases like Lawrence and Liam. The locations varied, nearby towns, distant cities, but the pattern was clear. These weren't business trips, they were secret rendezvous, carefully orchestrated to avoid detection. Every receipt felt like another blow, chipping away at the remnants of her shattered world. As Amanda sat amidst the scattered papers and letters, the reality hit her full force. Her hands trembled, not just from anger but from grief. Memories of happier times flooded her mind, unbidden and cruel. She remembered their first dance at their wedding, the laughter-filled evenings spent planning vacations, the quiet moments when they'd simply held each other in silence. Those memories now seemed tainted, overshadowed by the lies that had undermined them all. Her next move was inevitable. Confrontation loomed large, and Amanda knew she couldn't face Jason alone. Not yet. First, she needed answers from Lauren. If anyone could explain why this betrayal had gone on for so long, it was the woman who had shared in its secrecy. The meeting took place at Lauren's house, a familiar setting that now felt foreign and hostile. Amanda arrived unannounced, her presence unwelcome but unavoidable. Lauren opened the door cautiously, her smile faltering as she saw the fire burning in Amanda's eyes. "What do you want?" Lauren asked, her voice tinged with unease. "I need the truth," Amanda replied, her tone steady despite the storm raging inside her. "How long has this been going on?" Lauren hesitated, glancing nervously toward the hallway before stepping aside to let Amanda in. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, the air thick with unspoken guilt. For a moment, neither woman spoke, the silence filled only by the ticking of a clock on the wall. Finally, Lauren broke down. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "It just happened. At first, we told ourselves it was harmless. Just something to make us feel alive." "Alive," Amanda repeated, her voice rising with incredulity. "You think cheating on your best friend makes you alive? Do you have any idea what you've done to me, to my family? It wasn't supposed to be like this." Lauren cried, her own pain surfacing. "Jason promised he'd leave you someday. He said he loved me, that he wanted to start over. But he never followed through. I thought if I waited long enough, things would change." Amanda stared at her, disbelief warring with fury. "And until then, You thought it was okay to destroy everything I've built? To betray the trust one placed in you? Don't sit there and act like a victim. You chose this path every bit as much as he did." Lauren recoiled at Amanda's words, her expression a mix of shame and defiance. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He manipulated both of us. Me into staying silent, you into believing his lies." "I understand perfectly," Amanda snapped, her voice cold and cutting. "What I don't understand is how you could look me in the eye all these years and pretend nothing was wrong. How you could smile at me, laugh with me, while behind my back, you were tearing my life apart." With that, Amanda turned and left, leaving Lauren crumpled on the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. As she drove home, the weight of the confrontation settled heavily on her shoulders. Lauren's admission confirmed everything Amanda had feared, but it also raised new questions. Why hadn't Jason ended things sooner? What had kept him tied to two women, living a double life for so many years? By the time Amanda returned home, her emotional state had spiraled further. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt suffocating. Every room carried memories of Jason. His favorite chair by the fireplace, the photos of them together on the walls, the scent of his cologne still lingering faintly in the air. Each reminder was a fresh wound, reopening the pain she had tried so hard to suppress. Alone in her bedroom, Amanda collapsed onto the bed, clutching one of the love letters in her hand. The words blurred as tears streamed down her face. With each revelation, Amanda's world crumbled further. The man she thought she knew, the life she thought she had, it was all a lie. And the worst part was knowing that Jason hadn't acted alone. Lauren had been complicit, willingly participating in the destruction of Amanda's happiness. As the night wore on, Amanda realized that the hardest confrontation was still ahead, the one with Jason himself. But for now, she allowed herself to grieve, to process the enormity of what she had uncovered. In the quiet darkness of her home, surrounded by the echoes of a life undone, Amanda prepared herself for the battle to come. With each revelation, Amanda's world crumbles further. But the worst was yet to come. The evening was calm, the kind that lulled people into a false sense of security. Amanda sat in her car, parked across the street from Lauren's house, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing the turmoil within her. She had followed Jason here after noticing his car parked outside Lauren's home earlier than usual. It wasn't the first time she'd tracked his movements, but tonight felt different, more final. Through the dim glow of the porch light, Amanda watched as Jason and Lauren emerged from the shadows of the living room window. They stood close, closer than friends ever should, their bodies swaying together in an embrace that seemed to last an eternity. The sight hit Amanda like a physical blow, stealing her breath and leaving her chest hollow. Tears blurred her vision, but they didn't blur the reality. This was no innocent friendship. This was betrayal, raw and unfiltered, laid bare before her eyes. Without thinking, Amanda grabbed her purse and stepped out of the car, her heels clicking against the pavement with each determined step. Her mind raced, replaying every lie, every excuse, every moment of deceit that had led her to this point. She hadn't planned this confrontation, hadn't rehearsed what she would say or do. But something inside her snapped, propelling her forward with a force she couldn't control. As she approached the front door, her fingers brushed against the cold metal of the gun hidden deep within her purse. She hadn't intended to use it, not at first. It was there for self-defense, a precautionary measure she'd taken after discovering the truth about Jason's affair. But now, as anger surged through her veins like fire, the weight of the weapon felt heavier, more ominous. Inside, the atmosphere was tense yet eerily quiet. Jason and Lauren turned sharply at the sound of the door slamming shut behind Amanda. Their expressions shifted from surprise to fear as they saw the fury etched on her face. "Amanda," Jason began, his voice laced with unease. "What are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" she repeated, her voice trembling with rage. "You tell me, Jason. What exactly is this?" She gestured wildly toward Lauren, who stood frozen, her hands clasped tightly in front of her chest. Jason laughed nervously, trying to diffuse the situation with his usual charm. "Calm down, sweetheart. You're overreacting. There's nothing going on between us." "Overreacting?" Amanda echoed, her voice rising. "Overreacting? After everything I've found, the letters, the receipts, the lies, you expect me to believe that?" Lauren stepped forward, her voice quivering. "Amanda, please, let's talk about this rationally. We didn't mean to hurt you." "Rationally?" Amanda barked, cutting her off. "You think I can sit back and watch you destroy my life while pretending nothing's wrong? Do you have any idea what you've done to me? To us?" Jason rolled his eyes, his smirk returning. "This is ridiculous. You're losing it, Amanda. Get a grip." His dismissive tone was the breaking point. Amanda's vision tunneled, narrowing until all she could see were Jason's smug face and Lauren's pleading eyes. Without warning, she pulled the gun from her purse, pointing it directly at them. "You don't get to laugh at me," she growled, her voice low and dangerous. "Not anymore." Lauren gasped, backing away instinctively. "Amanda, no. Please, stop this." But Amanda wasn't listening. Her mind was consumed by years of pain, betrayal, and humiliation. Each word they spoke only fueled the fire burning inside her. Before anyone could react, she fired the first shot. The sound reverberated through the small house, shattering the fragile veneer of civility that still clung to the moment. Jason stumbled backward, clutching his shoulder, shock registering on his face. Lauren screamed, cowering against the wall. But Amanda wasn't finished. With trembling hands, she fired again and again, her actions driven by a primal need for justice, or perhaps vengeance. By the time the echoes faded, both Jason and Lauren lay motionless on the floor, their lives extinguished in an instant. For a moment, silence reigned supreme. Amanda stood there, the gun hanging limply in her hand, as the gravity of her actions crashed over her like a tidal wave. Her knees buckled beneath her, and she collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. The tears came in waves, hot and relentless, washing away the last remnants of the woman she once was. In a daze, she fumbled for her phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. When the operator answered, her voice was barely audible, choked with emotion. I did something terrible," she managed to choke out. "I killed them. Both of them." The line went silent for a moment before the operator responded, her voice calm but firm. "Ma'am, stay where you are. Help is on the way." "Help?" The word echoed in Amanda's mind, hollow and meaningless. There was no help for this. No undoing what had been done. As sirens wailed in the distance, signaling the arrival of the authorities, Amanda stared blankly at the two lifeless bodies before her. The enormity of her crime weighed heavily on her shoulders, crushing her under its weight. Did Amanda cross the line, or was she driven to desperation by unbearable betrayal? Stick around till the end to hear the full story, and don't forget to hit that like button if you're hooked. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation, the air heavy with the weight of judgment. Amanda sat quietly at the defense table, her posture stiff and her gaze fixed on the distant wall, as if trying to distance herself from the storm unfolding around her. The trial for double homicide had drawn national attention, transforming a personal tragedy into a public spectacle. But within these walls, it was more than just a story. It was a life being dissected, judged, and ultimately sentenced. Dr. Evelyn Harper, a renowned clinical psychologist, took the stand to offer insight into the effects of long-term betrayal on the human psyche. Her voice steady and measured, She explained how prolonged deception can lead to what she called emotional dissonance. Victims often experience cognitive distortions, questioning their own reality and sanity. In Amanda's case, years of gaslighting, being made to feel irrational or overly suspicious when confronting valid concerns, had eroded her sense of self-worth and clarity. By the time the truth about Jason's affair came to light, the emotional damage had reached a tipping point. Dr. Harper emphasized that while premeditation requires deliberate intent, Amanda's actions seemed rooted in a momentary loss of control, fueled by extreme emotional distress. The prosecution, however, painted a very different picture. Assistant District Attorney Marcus Langley stood before the jury, his voice sharp and unyielding. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he began, "let us not lose sight of the facts here. Amanda Brandon did not act impulsively, she acted deliberately. That gun in her purse wasn't there by accident. It was carried with purpose, a tool ready to be used." He pointed to evidence displayed on screens around the room. Surveillance footage showing Amanda purchasing the firearm months prior, text messages exchanged with friends discussing suspicions about Jason, and photographs of the crime scene illustrating careful planning in her approach to Lauren's home. If Amanda truly snapped in a fit of rage, Langley argued, why did she bring the weapon with her? Why did she follow them so meticulously? This was no spur-of-the-moment reaction. It was cold-blooded murder disguised as passion. Amanda's lawyer, Sarah Chen, rose to deliver a passionate rebuttal. Her voice steady yet tinged with emotion, she addressed the jury directly. "You've heard from experts who have studied Amanda's case extensively. You've seen the letters, the receipts, the years of deceit that led her to that fateful night. What you must ask yourselves now is whether any human being could endure such betrayal without cracking under the pressure." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We're not asking you to excuse Amanda's actions. Murder is never justified. But we are asking you to consider the context, the unbearable pain, the shattered trust, the years of manipulation that drove her to this point. Was this a calculated decision, or was it the desperate act of a woman pushed beyond her limits?" Her plea for empathy resonated deeply, urging the jury to look beyond the crime itself and into the complexities of the human heart. After days of deliberation, the verdict came swiftly. Guilty. The word hung in the air like a thunderclap, silencing even the loudest whispers. As Judge Rebecca Carter delivered the sentence, life in prison without parole, Amanda's body seemed to deflate, as though all remaining fight had been drained from her. In private, during a brief meeting with her lawyer afterward, Amanda finally allowed herself to speak openly about her remorse. Her voice cracked with emotion as she confessed, "I never meant for it to end like this. I wanted answers, closure, not bloodshed. But once I saw them together, everything went dark. I couldn't stop myself." Sarah Chen nodded solemnly, offering a handkerchief for Amanda's tears. "Regret won't change what happened, but it shows growth. Hold on to that, Amanda. Use it to find some semblance of peace." As Amanda began serving her sentence behind bars, the world outside moved on, its collective gaze shifting to the next scandal, the next tragedy. Yet, the question lingered. Was justice truly served, or was Amanda merely another casualty of betrayal? For decades, society had celebrated her marriage as a model of devotion and stability. Now, those same people whispered behind closed doors, debating whether her actions were born of madness or malice. Perhaps the answer lay somewhere in between, a reflection of how fragile trust can be and how easily it can unravel when tested. Through the small window of her cell, Amanda watched the horizon stretch endlessly beyond her reach, knowing her journey was far from over. The price of betrayal had been paid, in lives lost, in freedoms forfeited, in truths too painful to bear. And yet, amidst the ruins of her past, she clung to hope that someday, somehow, she might find redemption in the ashes of her broken world. In the sterile confines of a prison therapy room, Amanda sat quietly, her hands resting on her lap, eyes fixed on the counselor seated across from her. The walls were bare, the air thick with silence, but within that stillness, Amanda began to find clarity. Therapy had become both a refuge and a battleground, a place where she confronted the darkest corners of her past while searching for redemption in the present. "I never thought I'd be here," Amanda admitted one day, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was the kind of person who believed in forgiveness, in second chances. But when I saw them together, something inside me broke. I couldn't see past the pain." Her therapist nodded, encouraging her to explore those feelings further. Over time, Amanda learned to dissect her actions, not to justify them, but to understand their roots. She realized that years of dismissing her instincts, of ignoring subtle signs of betrayal, had left her vulnerable to the explosive rage that consumed her that fateful night. Through therapy, she worked toward accepting responsibility for her choices while also acknowledging the profound impact of Jason's deception on her psyche. Meanwhile, the ripple effects of the scandal continued to reverberate through the lives of those around her. Their children, now adults, struggled to come to terms with the loss of both parents, one to death, the other to imprisonment. At first, they grappled with anger and confusion, torn between loyalty to their mother and grief for their father. Slowly, however, they found solace in supporting one another, drawing strength from shared memories and unspoken bonds. They visited Amanda regularly, bringing updates about their lives and offering words of encouragement, though the weight of what had happened lingered heavily in every conversation. The community, too, bore the scars of the tragedy. Neighbors who once admired the Brandons now whispered behind closed doors, speculating about the true nature of Jason and Lauren's relationship and whether Amanda's actions were justified. Media outlets seized on the story, sensationalizing details and fueling public debate about the limits of human endurance in the face of betrayal. Some viewed Amanda as a victim driven to extremes. Others condemned her as a murderer whose crime could not be excused by circumstance. Regardless of perspective, the case sparked broader discussions about trust, consent, and the devastating consequences of infidelity. Infidelity, after all, is more than just a personal betrayal. It fractures families, disrupts communities, and raises uncomfortable questions about the fragility of human connection. How far should we go to uncover the truth? What responsibilities do we bear when our actions affect not only ourselves but those we love? These are the ethical dilemmas that linger long after the dust settles, forcing us to confront uncomfortable truths about our own capacity for forgiveness and judgment. As Amanda adjusted to life behind bars, she carried these questions with her, weaving them into her journey toward healing. Though her path was fraught with challenges, she clung to hope that someday she might reconcile her past with her present, finding meaning in the wreckage of her life. Thanks for watching Vic's True Crime Stories. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Share this video with friends who enjoy thought-provoking true crime stories. And let me know in the comments below, what would you have done in Amanda's situation? Through Amanda's story, we're reminded that even in the darkest moments, there is potential for growth, reflection, and understanding. Her journey may have ended in confinement, but her spirit remains free, a testament to the resilience of the human heart.